Alright. So I'm not going to bother editing this thing. So what's up, Rob? Dr. Ray.
Internet.
This isn't live, so I'm going to put this on YouTube later and link it to everybody. Liam says he's on his way, but he's always late. So alright. So, going to be issue 58. I got an outline here, so that's cool. Actually, look, go sideways. Hell's yeah.
You want to run a bear type shit? Outline?
That's it, man. I'm set up. Okay. Alright. Meanwhile, on the comic box, it's Vaughan
Brian K Vaughan Day. Vaughan Day.
Vaughan, because I'm like, Vaughan, there's nothing that rhymes with it. Brian K Vaughan, today on the comic box. Kick it, Dr. Ray. Comics. Wow. Yeah, that's fine. I'll turn that a little bit more towards you, because my voice, I think, carries more than yours does. All right. Welcome to the comic box, issue 58 of the comic box. Yeah, I've done 57 of these so far. This is 58 of the comic box, part of the Geek to Geek podcast network. With me today is Dr. Ray, who is back. Hello again, Ray.
Hello.
Liam claims he's on his way, but we waited like 45 minutes for him to show up, and I didn't feel like waiting anymore. So if he shows up in the middle...
Yeah, it'll be a nice drop-in cameo.
Exactly. It's fine.
Nice walk on.
So like we said, we're talking Brian K. Vaughan this week. I've been waiting to do this for several weeks because Ray is a massive Brian K. Vaughan fan. I am also a fan, not to your level. You got me into some Brian K. Vaughan stuff, and so I wanted to make sure it was a week that you were able to join me here on the show to talk about it. But first, as always, we do our weekly geekery. So we talked a little bit beforehand about it, but I'm still going to let you go first. What have you been up? How have you been keeping it geek this week?
Well, actually, speaking of Brian K. Vaughan, one of my favorite comic writers, I recently caught up with his run from the 90s on Batman.
Okay.
So.
And that was our reading for this week. Was it that Batman by Brian K. Vaughan trade?
Yeah.
Okay. That was our homework for this week. So we did that.
But besides that, I'm unfamiliar with the show on Cartoon Network, Rick and Morty.
Mm-hmm.
I've been recommended the show heavily, but I rented the first trade of the Rick and Morty comic, so I read that this week, and it was very much my sense of humor, very much akin to my sensibilities, so I'll probably have to go check out the show now.
Yeah, I did watch it, because again, Liam and everybody else is always saying, oh, Rick and Morty and Rick and Morty. And I liked it. I like when they literally do like an Inception-style episode, and the entire time they're talking about how dumb of a movie Inception is, while they're stuck doing the Inception thing themselves. And they have a habit of doing that sort of thing. I'd be curious to see if the comic is that, because the one thing that bothers me about the show, especially initially, is the way the characters talk. There's lots of, it's like they're rushing to get their lines out, so they're stumbling over their own words, and then Morty, who's the kid, is always, you can't do that kind of thing. Well, Rick sounds the same, except he's drunk, and so it's interrupted by burping and vomiting and slurring language.
Yeah.
So,
the impression I get from the clips I've seen of the show is it's very improvisational.
Yes.
It's almost like they hit record, and a lot like your podcast.
A lot like
whatever comes out.
Yeah.
You edit some, I guess, but
maybe.
I assume they do on the show as well.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of that. Like Dan Harmon just kind of sitting down, and when he writes, like, oh god, I gotta write a script. Okay, whatever. There's literally one episode per season, which is like interdimensional cable or something like that, where literally it's just clips from television shows they made up.
Yeah.
Like it's that bad of just them getting drunk some night and sitting down and writing stupid TV show ideas. And then they animate it, and that's a whole episode, is them watching TV from across the multi-dimensional
That
universe.
sounds amazing. I'm going to have to check out the show.
Anything else cool you've been up to this week?
Not strictly speaking nerdy.
Okay.
I'm catching up with The Wicked and the Divine.
Me too. I just finished catching up. I read all of the trades that I think are out there that there's an app I use called Hoopla, which lets me check out digital comics from my local library. And I swear to God, I need to get these people to sponsor them, because every single week I talk about getting. That's where I read The Batman by Brian K Vaughan. But I recently, when the last month turned over, I used my last couple ones and my other one, and I was able to get, I think, up to it. But they're doing like a Wicked the Divine like flashback miniseries or something now,
Okay.
where it's not the current group of gods, finger quotes, but the previous one from 90 years ago, or maybe 180 years ago or something. I think is what they're doing right now.
And it is about the modern gods.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings up another sticking point in my nerd credentials. I'm a huge fan of the novel American Gods.
Mm-hmm.
Have not watched the TV show.
I haven't seen it either. No, we were supposed to start having like American Gods nights,
show nights,
but we never ended up putting them together. There is also, since if you're heading to the comic shop to pick up whatever you pick up whenever you pick it up, there is an American Gods comic that's coming out.
Yeah, I saw that.
I read the first issue. It looks like a really good adaptation of the book.
Yeah,
it's not.
I've read the first 3 issues.
Okay.
And yeah, it is a very good adaptation of the book. That's my impression.
Which is good that it's not an adaptation of the TV show, because it's just, you know what I mean? Because I'm sure the TV show probably has a lot that's different, because they need to extend it to seasons and have those specific cutoffs for, you need to have a place to chop for an episode, and it's not necessarily the end of a chapter.
Yeah.
Although,
Again, I haven't seen the show, so I can't speak to that.
Who knows? Okay. So for my weekly geekery, I made a list here, and we'll plow through it. I'm almost done with season 3 of The Flash on Netflix, because they put the most recent seasons of stuff up on Netflix now, and I didn't watch any of it. Once you're like 3 episodes in on Hulu, like they start pulling the episodes, they only have the most recent 3. So I haven't watched any of, Fear the Walking Dead. Arrow, I really don't know if I care about anymore. But this season is where they introduce like Vigilante and Mad Dog and some of these other like 1980s vigilante characters that have no powers. So I don't know. But like Legends of Tomorrow season 2 just didn't look good. But The Flash is usually a little lighter and fun.
I've seen the first few episodes of the first season, and I enjoyed them. I was very impressed.
It's okay. But I want to finish it up just because it's a thing that I'll put on like at the gym or while I'm cleaning. I'm not really paying attention. But once that's done, I think I'm going to move on to Legion, because I've heard Legion is awesome, and I think they have every episode on Hulu right now. So I want to go and see that so I can do an episode on it. As far as reading, I read the 2nd volume. No, I actually finished the 3rd volume of Michael J. Straczynski's Thor run. So it's post-Ragnarok, where all the gods die. And then they had the first Civil War in Marvel Comics, and Thor wasn't a part of that at all. So this takes place after that. Thor comes back to life, and his job is to try and seek out where the rest of the Asgardians are. They're hiding in the bodies of humans. And it's written by J. Michael Straczynski, the guy that created Babylon 5.
Okay.
And Rising Stars, I think, might have been his other comic that people really like.
Although, I want to correct you on one thing.
Yeah.
In the first Civil War, Marvel Civil War,
yeah,
Thor was kind of a part of it, in that they built an android Thor.
And that's in here. There's one run-in he has with Iron Man where he's like, we're going to talk about this. You used me and built this thing that killed people. Because that's what killed Giant Man or something, right?
Yeah.
Like Hank Pym. But anyway, I read that. I thought that was, it's good. It's where they redesigned the characters so they didn't have their classic comic book appearances. They were a little more like closer to what they had in the movie. That sort of design of Thor.
Okay.
And it's fine. They reintroduced Donald Blake, his alter ego, who had been gone since the Walt Simonson run, the guy who created Better Ray Bill. But I wanted to see if I liked Thor as a character outside of the Jason Aaron run. The answer is not really. So I read it. I went through what I was able to get. Meh. Read my homework this week, which was The Batman by Brian K Vaughan. I didn't make any progress on... I had Hawkman by Jeff Johns. I got via Hoopla. I just grabbed some random things. And I didn't get far on it, and then it was due back, and it automatically returns it. So I didn't get very far into Hawkman, sorry to say. However, I have read the first 3 volumes of Morning Glories, which is
Oh.
written by Nick Spencer, the guy who did the Superior Foes of Spider-Man, I think it's the same writer. And it's so weird. I feel like it must be the Lost of comics. And I say that as somebody who hasn't watched Lost. Because it's like, all you have is more questions. Like, and if I wasn't reading it for free, I don't know if I would hang on. Because they're not really telling you. These kids, there's something special about them. Each one seems to have something weird about them. They all go to this school, which you find out is like deep underground, hidden in some giant cavern. Students get killed. There's something about time travel, but only through their own lives. And the story jumps around so much. It's very confusing. But I'm just kind of sticking with it because it's free, so why wouldn't I read everything? And there's like 9 volumes out there. So I figure, screw it, I might as well hop in, and I like binge reading. But now I need to wait for next month before I can get more hoopla. Because the other one I checked out was Umbrella Academy, but I haven't touched it yet. But I know they're possibly doing a Netflix show on that comic. But I haven't read it, so that's not part of Weekly Geekery. Let's see. The first episode of Game of Thrones came out. I started a thread on the subreddit, and I posted a video because I was like, we need to talk about Game of Thrones. I've been playing Marvel Future Fight on my tablet here, and I played more of Batman Arkham Origins, which is, so there's the Arkham games, Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Knight, but between the second and third, another company made an Arkham game that's almost identical, like all the controls and stuff are the same, but it wasn't the same like voice cast or whatever, and it's a prequel game, and it's okay. It's more Arkham. That's pretty much all I can say. I mostly run around, beat people up, and do Riddler challenges where you need to solve a puzzle.
Yeah.
So I haven't really dug into the game too much. I'm maybe a third of the way in. And then the last thing, which you missed out on, was we did a late night watch of Night of the Living Dead. Because George Romero died. It's the only piece of news we'll throw out there. The creator of Night of the Living Dead passed away. And so it was myself, Luke, Damien, and Chelsea. And we all were too lazy to actually meet up. So we tried doing a Facebook group, like, telephone call, and it was disastrous. But we all tried watching Night of the Living Dead, except Luke was watching, like, multiple versions on YouTube, because it's our friend Luke, and he was like, he started watching one on YouTube, and he's like, but wait, there's a colorized version. So he finds the colorized version, but then he's not on the same spot as the rest of us. And then he's like, but wait, there's something else. And I think Damien and I had the same version on DVD, but the version that Chelsea was watching was on Amazon Video, and it had like an extended scene. So the whole thing was a disaster. Plus you were hearing other people's TVs in the background. It was an experiment in seeing if we could hang out without physically hanging out as a group, and it didn't work. But we did that. I'm not doing it again. That is my weekly geekery. As far as... Did you hear that? Did something go off? Was that my...
A mouse?
No. I must have thought my phone went off. No worries. I'll set that there next to my Iron Man. I got the Hulk Buster.
Yeah.
Anyway, as far as comic book news goes, like I said, our only real piece outside of Romero is San Diego Comic-Con is going on right now. Now, we've already seen most of the trailers. We've already talked about it just off microphone.
Yeah.
Our episode for next week is going to be our thoughts on all of the news. The Eisner Awards went out. I didn't actually get the chance to look and see who won this year's Eisner Awards, which are the comic book Emmys, comic book Oscars, and all the trailers. So they're there. I did my best on Twitter to try and share the different trailers and stuff. There is a terrible version of an Infinity War trailer out there, but you can't really hear anything, and it's mostly just fans screaming their heads off, which, to be fair, is fun to watch.
Yeah.
But I assume they'll actually do that. So if you want more immediate stuff on that, you can check out the Geektitude Twitter feed, because Joe Hogan from Geektitude was going to do his best, and most of what he said he was doing was retweeting stuff from his buddy, also named Ray, Ray Vargas, who was also retweeting a lot of news. So I don't mind being a news source. I'm not the news source. I'm not your breaking news source on this podcast. because we're always, held down by time or just, I'm not going to talk about shows I don't watch.
Still, we'll review the Infinity War trailer when it's officially released.
Yes.
We're not going to bootleg anything.
No. As far as the poll list, I'm just going to throw this out there before we get into our topic. Something to read for next week, since we're going to be talking Comic-Con trailers. Obviously, I would think go and absorb these trailers. As far as what I am personally reading, I think for comics, I think I'm going to read that first volume of Umbrella Academy, and then once the month turns over, which I'm trying to think, that's not going to happen by 7 days from now, though, by next weekend. It's the last weekend of the month, so I won't have anything from Hoopla. I don't know, maybe I'll go back and find something else I currently have. But Umbrella Academy, I guess, for me...
I've heard good things about it.
Yeah, what the hell, give it a shot. Is there a comic or a series you have your eye on right now that you're looking to read in the next week that you could make a suggestion for people?
Again, I'm reading the American Gods comic.
Okay.
Which is very interesting for me, again, as a huge fan of the book. Someone who hasn't seen the TV show, but seeing a Neil Gaiman novel get retroactively adapted as a comic is kind of cool. So that's what I'm reading. I picked up a few issues of the Kate Bishop Hawkeye, which I'm reading.
Okay. How is that?
I enjoy it.
Okay.
Again,
compared to Matt Fraction?
That was amazing. I'm not going to compare it to Matt Fraction.
Okay.
In fact, when a new creative team came on, I kept up buying Hawkeye.
That's right. We talked about that the last time you were on, where I jumped off. I jumped ship. Just trying to slim down the things that I was actually going out and buying in trades every single time a new one came out. But okay.
Yeah.
I think that's good. That's good suggestion. I'm sorry, was there another suggestion that you wanted to throw out there for?
Yeah, nothing's coming to mind.
Okay. Alright, cool. Yeah, because I don't know what else I'm gonna pick up.
Oh, I know. Another one. A spinoff of the Darth Vader solo series, Dr. Aphra.
That's right, yeah.
I'm still reading that one. She's sort of the breakout character from that story. I would compare her to Boba Fett from the original Star Wars trilogy, in that she's this sort of side character who is so popular that she sort of got around cult following. Is
somebody, I don't want to sound like an ass, somebody significant writing it? Is it like a known comic book writer?
I believe it's Kieran Gillian.
Oh, the guy who's writing The Wicked the Divine.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, he wrote the Darth Vader solo comic.
Oh, so, I want to say that was up for an award this year too.
Yeah.
I didn't take note of it, but I thought it was up. Yeah, I thought it was up for an Eisner for one of the best minis or ongoing or whatever it is. Well, cool. All right. Well, we will be right back then with the topic of the week. But first, this. And that's when we play the commercial. And we are back. That was a commercial for the Geek to Geek Podcast Network, which we are, or rather, I don't know why I screw this up every week. It was a commercial for the Geek to Geek Podcast. We are part of the Geek to Geek Podcast Network. As always, we ask you to please give us star ratings and reviews on iTunes. We don't have any money to advertise because we don't make any money doing this. We spend money to do this so we can host the episodes online indefinitely and all that. So please go and do that. The hope was if we had 25 by the end of July, we were going to, and I keep forgetting what it was. If it was Liam and I were going to review like Catwoman or something. But we had talked about it last time you were on as well, because I'm always trying to find something. Otherwise, I think the other thing we talked about doing is if we blew past it, then we would pick a random person who reviewed in the last however long, or one of those 25s, try and get a hold of them personally and send them a comic from our own personal stash of comic books that Liam and I would then sign, effectively making that comic book worthless. Because our signatures are worth nothing. But that's what we were going to do. So, star ratings and reviews, and of course, the Geek to Geek Podcast Network, listen to our shows. All right, let's get into the topic of the week. The comic book writer Brian K. Vaughan. I have a short bio I'm going to read that I put together. He was born in 1976. He's from Cleveland, Ohio. He was a fan of, it was Peter David. Who did I say he was a fan of? Mark Waid. I was wrong. It was the Peter David Hulk run, which ran for frickin' ever. Like, he wrote that for hundreds of issues. Peter David did. Also the guy who wrote the initial Young Justice run that I really love. But he was a huge fan of Peter David and Joss Whedon. I guess Joss Whedon was the guy who made him want to become a writer, which explains a lot. of the way he does his own storytelling. He studied film at New York University, and while there he took part in Marvel Comics' Stan Hatton Project, which was a class for people who wanted to learn how to write comic books. Eventually, he did get a gig at Marvel. He wrote, and it's too bad Liam isn't here yet because he would dig this. His first comic was Marvel's Tales from the Age of Apocalypse #2, and that is his favorite event book of all time, was the Age of Apocalypse one. Then he ended up doing issues and small stints for X-Men, Spider-Man, Captain America. He wrote Doctor Strange: The Oath, which is kind of the one sort of trade Doctor Strange story that people were recommended before they went to see the movie. The thought was, oh, you should read The Oath because that's kind of the best succinct sort of origin story and just a good Doctor Strange story. That was written by Brian K Vaughan. And that was written in 2006, which was the other interesting thing.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange has
I
been
have
around
read
forever.
that book.
The Oath?
Yeah, I have read that book.
It was good. And then, let's see, Batman, which we can talk about, which was only a couple of issues, but were interesting. I guess I didn't realize he wrote Green Lantern Circle of Fire, which is this interesting mini-series thing when they were playing around with different formats of event books at DC. So there's like issue 1 and issue 2, and in between a bunch of one-shots. And it's just the story where you find out that Green Lantern becomes Ion. He basically gets the parallax powers. He becomes almost omnipotent. And accidentally uses those abilities to create alternate versions of Green Lanterns. So there's like a Flash Green Lantern from the future. And I'm ruining it. The spoiler is he finds out he created them all and he ends up reabsorbing them into his ring. But he creates like a Shining Knight version of Green Lantern. A pair of twins who share the ring, like an evil version of himself. It was a really interesting storyline, and that was Brian K Vaughan. He did a stint on Swamp Thing. One of his big ones is he wrote Buffy the Vampire Slayer season 8, which was the very first comic book continuation of the Buffy
show.
Which means he was working under Joss Whedon because Joss Whedon also wrote some things for that and was considered the executive producer. And Ex Machina for Wildstorm. And then and I just have a list of his solo stuff. And maybe we'll take the solo stuff one by one, because I think we've read most of these. But first, I guess let's talk about some of those ones that we just read off. The fact that Joss Whedon is the reason he wanted to become a writer, and he got to work on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I think is incredible. What did you think of the Batman by Brian K Vaughan trade?
I enjoyed it. I think he did some interesting character work. Reason I'm a big fan of Brian K Vaughan is he does remind me of the great writers like Alan Moore, Neil Gaiman, in that not only can he structure a story really well, he seems to give a lot of affection to his characters. So even if it's a villain, it's someone you sympathize with, and even a hero has flaws.
That's a really excellent way of putting it. The other thing I think that really you could use to identify his type of writing, and there's other writers that are the same. Warren Ellis is also very much the same way, where he plays the long game. And I think a lot of the writers that are held up as being really great writers were those people, is that's what they do, is they play the long game. They're planning a 60-issue storyline broken up into smaller stories, but they know that's kind of where they're headed.
Yeah.
Now, what was your introduction to Brian K Vaughan? Do you know?
Yeah, I believe it was shortly after I graduated college. I'd gotten back into comics and was looking for really compelling comics to read. Mm-hmm. So it's probably just some list online. Why the Last Man?
Okay.
Which had wrapped up by that point, but I had never read it. So it's probably just going to half-price books and finding Why the Last Man trades. And that was my introduction to him. Shortly thereafter, I enjoyed that comic so much. That's probably considered one of his great accomplishments.
Yeah, very much so.
But after finishing Why the Last Man and falling in love with him as a writer, basically, I went into Runaways.
Okay.
Another one of his.
And we will certainly get to Runaways. So on this list, I have Ex Machina, and it's for Wildstorm, which was Jim Lee's offshoot of Image, right, which eventually split off into its own company, and now is owned by DC, I think. I think they remerged it back in, right?
That sounds right.
Because they have the Wildstorm comic going on right now, and like Grifter was in some of the New 52 stuff. So tell me, I knew nothing about Ex Machina except it was a series he did, and if it was Wildstorm, I guess that means it was creator-owned at the time.
I believe so. Ex Machina, I will describe as a superhero comic,
Okay.
like Watchmen, kind of a dark, gritty, realistic universe where there aren't any superheroes. The protagonist, Mitchell Hundred, is the only character. I guess there are a few others, but they only develop their powers because of him.
Mm.
But anyway, he's the only one with any superpowers. His power is he can talk to machines. So you can point a gun at him, but he can tell it to jam. He can tell your defibrillator to turn on.
Okay.
He has these powers.
Yeah.
Anyway, I will also compare it to a political thriller, like in the vein of Aaron Sorkin,
Okay.
where it's kind of like The West Wing mixed with The Watchmen. That's how I will describe it. It's about this character, Mitchell Hundred, developing these powers.
Right.
His friend takes him to the Brooklyn Bridge because there's this mysterious object that ends up blowing up and taking off half his face.
The main character.
The main
Is
character.
missing half his face.
Well, he is able to get it repaired through plastic surgery.
Okay.
He can talk to machines, and he uses his powers to save one of the buildings on 9/11.
Oh,
He
wow.
talks the plane down after the first plane hits.
Wow.
And
Okay.
the whole premise of the book, this all happens in the past.
Right.
You see flashbacks of it. But his crime-fighting days, he's elected mayor of New York.
Okay.
The idea being, if there really were a superhero, like, why not run for office? You'd be insane. Who wouldn't vote for Superman?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't elect Batman
Right.
to the 3rd District? Who
Right.
cares?
Yeah.
But that was sort of the impetus, the idea behind this story is, the superhero who actually runs for mayor of New York, and he's serving as mayor in the real time of the comic. So we see flashbacks, and we see his crime-fighting days, and how he develops a lot of his nemesis.
Yeah. Nemesis. Yeah.
But we are introduced to him currently just going through the motions of being the mayor, of having to deal with instituted legislating and policy making and all these sorts of things. You wouldn't think a superhero would ever have to deal with, but when you're a superhero and the mayor, you would.
Oh, all right. I think you've sold me on Ex Machina. Hi, Liam.
Hello, Robert.
You could sit down if you'd like. I do have another chair in the corner. Okay. Well, I was going to say, if you want to hang out, feel free to come on in, but you'll need to close the door because I can hear the furnace through the mic. Are you sure? Okay. All right. So, hi, Liam.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Okay. So, we're in our topic of the week by this point. We're talking Brian K Vaughan. At Ray's introduction to the character as a big fan. Yeah. So now, I need to change that too. Okay. All right. I'm gonna. There we go.
Just the tip.
All right. So, Brian K Vaughan. I'm not giving you any time to ramp up here. What's your introduction to the character? Is it strictly Runaways, or have you read other things you know?
I think it's just Runaways.
Okay. Now, did you ever read the Green Lantern Circle of Fire miniseries, where Kyle Rayner creates alternate Green Lanterns?
No, I never did.
Okay. That was the only other thing I thought you might have read as a Green Lantern fan. So we just heard about Ex Machina, and now we're on the list of solo stuff. The first one, which is Runaways. And I have this highlighted specifically because Runaways is coming from Hulu, I think. They're making a television show out of it. There is a trailer out there. It doesn't really show a whole lot. The premise being a bunch of kids think their parents are boring and they have this big meeting once a year. They sneak in to spy on their parents and realize they're supervillains. And each one of these kids' parents is a different type, either a magic user, a tech user, actual superpowered ninja, or just mob boss.
Mutant time
or
travelers.
mutant. Yep. So the kids decide to run away, and that's pretty much it. That's what kicks off the story. They're not so much a super team, more so they're just a bunch of kids that now need to rely on one another in order to try and survive. And they talk about superheroics, and they kind of come up with fake superheroics superhero names for themselves, but then talk about how stupid it is to have superhero names for themselves.
I do like the youngest character comes up with the super name
Yes.
or superhero identity, the mutant character.
Mhm.
She's, I believe, 10 years old. Princess Powerful,
Yes.
which is a great name.
Yes, it is. Especially versus Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
Oh.
That's a very long.
Grown word.
Very-
Yeah, yeah. Fun thing about Runaways was eventually the book was taken over by Joss Whedon because that's the only writer that Brian K. Vaughan said he would allow to take over his book. Which is interesting because that's Marvel, and Marvel owns all of those characters and stuff now, so he didn't really have a choice in the matter. But he asked Joss Whedon to do it, and he said okay. And one of the things you mislead is that Joss Whedon is the reason he wanted to become a writer. So to have basically your hero take over your comic book of characters you got to help create or create flat out is pretty cool.
Hey, my characters now. Hey.
I get to play around in this universe you created.
That's right.
Stan Lee takes that.
Okay. But Runaways, really good story. I thought they had interesting characters. I thought it was interesting when they were taken over by, I think it was, might have even been Nick Spencer who wrote the Avengers Arena, which was basically Hunger Games slash, what's the Japanese film of the school kids?
Oh, Battle Royale.
Battle Royale. I don't know why I wasn't thinking that. Like, they literally, the covers of the comics were made to look like Battle Royale posters and stuff.
What do you call a cheeseburger in Japan?
Battle Royale.
With cheese.
With cheese. Some of the characters were in there, and now they are actually doing a new Runaways book, but it's got a totally different writer, and I have no idea. I think it's going to be some of those characters getting back together after all of these years and seeing, how they've grown up. And it's just going to be there. It's that thing where they're making a Runaways TV show, so they need a new Runaways comic, right? But instead of what they should do, which I guess maybe they will, is repackage and resell the original comics that are the actual basis for the show. It's going to be, look, it's the Runaways comic, but all the characters look different, but not really. And then they're going to make changes to the new comic book based on the television show, which is awful and backwards. And I've done an episode on this before on how I hate this. It's not cyclical because it's like Pong. It just shoots back and forth of, we wrote the comics. Great. We're going to make a movie based on those comics. But not really. Like, we're going to do our own thing, but inspired by your comics. Great. Now the comic needs to change to look more like the movie that was only really inspired. But it's the Spider-Man and Mary Jane are no longer married thing.
To be fair, they've been doing that in comics. For instance, the Spider-Man and Mary Jane are no longer married. That was done in apropos of anything that was happening in the movie.
No, that was totally because of the movies.
You think it was because the movies show them in high school, so we have to put them back in high school.
I believe there's
the
articles
thing.
written on that, exactly. Yeah.
They do that in comics a lot.
Yeah.
With
They did
the
that
Ultimate
with the
Universe.
X-Men.
We're going to retell all of the origin stories, but
Right.
this is going to be a different universe.
Right.
This is Marvel 616. These are the other universes.
The younger, which
Or
makes so much
Rebirth
more sense.
or
Yes.
50, or the new 52 from DC.
Right.
They try to reinvigorate their characters every so often.
But then a costume designer on a film makes a decision, and now suddenly Captain America in the comics looks like he does in the movie.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
my understanding is they are once again going back to the classic designs in the comics. But anyway, Runaways was very good. I really liked it. Why the Last Man is, I would say, one of two. Runaways is sort of the cult favorite, right? The two big ones, hands down, have to be Why the Last Man, which is done now, and Saga, which is ongoing and taking all of the awards for everything, because it's this massive storyline that does huge time jumps and everything. Why the Last Man, very simple conceit. Every single male on the planet, human, right? It didn't happen to
Mammals. So
all
the mammals.
So
All male mammals with a Y chromosome are dead.
except our main character, Yorick Brown, and his capuchin, is that pronounced it right? His capuchin helper monkey, Ampersand. And there's got to be, I think, a photo up on the Twitter somewhere of when you cosplayed as Yorick, and I cosplayed as Jessie Custer from Preacher, and nobody understood either of her costumes. And we're like, come on, guys, it's Vertigo.
Well, it's
It's
nice
Vertigo
going
comics.
to cons because I will be recognized as York, whereas if I
Right.
wear that for Halloween, people are like,
Yeah,
you're supposed to be a zombie apocalypse survivor?
exactly.
Like,
But even at the last con, there was like 2 people. The
True.
idea being he wears a poncho and a gas mask the whole time so nobody can realize he's a man.
Yeah.
And that's how he survives. And he has like bodyguards throughout, and he travels the country. And I love that side story of a space station because there is a male or 2 males aboard the International
Yeah.
Space Station. And since they're not on Earth, they weren't affected by whatever killed off everything else.
Yeah.
But the series ran for a really long time, lots of twists and turns. I guess maybe okay for teenagers? Like what age? Like there's some nudity in there because there's the idea of they have to prove he's a man and that kind of thing.
I
But
would
it's
say
not.
teenagers,
Yeah.
probably 13.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some nudity, which again, teenagers would love.
Hey, there you go. But
Teenagers have seen it.
yes, we live in the digital age.
Yeah.
Or that's just Liam confessing to things he now needs to be arrested for.
Well, all I ever do with my old
Nope.
pornography is go
All right.
around the old schoolyard.
Yeah.
You know? I caught find a middle
You're
school.
like Santa.
Toss it out the window.
Anyway, that's illegal. Why the Last Man's great, and then Saga. That's right, the littering. That's the thing I have trouble with. Protect Mother Earth.
It's recycling.
Yeah.
Those DVDs don't break down.
Well, all right. And then there's Saga, which is the one he's currently doing. It's one of multiple series he's doing right now. The other one is Paper Girls, which is also winning a lot of awards.
Also great.
Yes, but Saga, okay. How would you even define the story of Saga? I guess at its core, it's
Saga.
2 parents and their child,
I
right?
have a really great, I think, description.
Yeah.
It's a space opera, so
Mhm.
there are aliens and fantastic planets and modes of transportation and characters. I would say it's Star Wars meets Romeo and Juliet.
Yes.
So it's all about these 2 people who fall in love, but they're on opposite sides of an intergalactic war.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very awkward situation. They produce a child, and so they're trying to protect their child and protect one another, going across the galaxy, across the universe, all while encountering these crazy characters and aliens and other species that have been affected by this war that kind of spans the entire universe.
And I think one of the things people love so much about this is how well defined both heroes and villains are, because there's not really straight up villains in the story. Everybody, like, there's some bounty hunters and stuff, but they're doing their job. But every single character is so different and unique. There's the robots that have televisions for heads that project kind of what they're thinking if they're not focused. This is not in that vein. This is, I'm going to get close to the mic. This is not a book for children.
No.
There's, it's not just nudity in this book. I mean, it starts with sex, I think. Like the very first page, I think, is the main characters having sex that results in the creation of this child, which should never exist because it's from 2 totally different species, which are at war with one another.
Are we
There's-
talking about bestiality in this book?
I don't know if it counts as that, but there are anthropomorphic.
There are characters
Creatures.
who think it's an abomination that
Yeah.
these 2 are together.
Yeah.
There are other people who say
Stop
they're
looking at
in
me like
love.
that, Liam.
They're in love, and they're both humanoid. The
Yeah.
entire thing is one species has horns,
Right.
again antlers,
And
some
can
of
do
them-
and can do magic.
and can do magic. And the other race is again humanoid,
Yep.
but has wings.
And uses technology.
Yep.
Exactly. But then there's characters like Goose or Gus, however it's
Yeah,
pronounced, which is a little
Goose.
seal guy in overalls who's wonderful. And then each of the different characters, like there's Lying Cat, which is literally a cat that just says lying if you're lying. It just knows.
Well, it's a big green alien cat.
This is
Give
true.
it
It's
some
the
credit.
oversized, yeah. And then each of the bounty hunters have their names are the definitive article for some reason. So it's things like the Will is his name, and I can't even remember of any of the other ones. It's the problem with Saga. It's a lot like Lazarus for me. They're really well written books that are there for a very long period of time. I can't remember for the life of me what happened, especially for a book like Saga that does these 5-year jumps every once in a while, or a couple-year jumps.
Yeah.
Where suddenly now we're going to go and see what happened to if their kid was taken away for a short period of time, they're trying to find it, or the parents are separated, My worry is if Saga doesn't have an ending. If Brian K. Vaughan doesn't have an end in sight and is really writing it as an ongoing, I worry that a book like this would suffer from fatigue, where maybe it just keeps getting weirder and loopier, but I feel like that's a lot of shows, where the shows have been on for 12 years. Like Supernatural should have been like 5 years on the air. Instead, they're going into season 12, and you're like,
put an end to that nonsense.
yeah. Or like the X-Files. I love the X-Files. I don't know it needed as many seasons as it got. I'm okay with it coming back, so long as they do a good job. I wasn't a huge fan of when they brought it, this most recent new season of X-Files.
You know what else we should end? Doctor Who.
Perhaps. But not because
I'm just
the
trying
new,
to
but not,
ire up the
Yeah,
nerds out
yeah.
there. Like,
But-
really,
Yeah, we're gonna get so much
I'm
hate
punching
mail.
Yeah.
Chelsea in the face right now. Like, yeah, Doctor Who. Yeah.
but like not because the new
Supernatural.
Doctor is a woman, because
No.
we don't. That's fine.
No. Cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
See, and I think the idea of Doctor Who is unlike maybe any other television show out there. When your main character literally changes,
Yeah.
you get to tell completely different stories, and people are just still watching. It's like, what was it, General Hospital, where the whole cast ends up swapping out. I'm almost better with that, so long as you can keep coming up with fresh material, because you're introducing us to fresh characters. Like, I would have loved if Supernatural ended, because it's about the two brothers, right? Kill them. The show's not called The Winchesters, it's called Supernatural. Kill them, introduce us to other characters that have been there for a season or two, side characters, then they get more involved in the show. Kill off one of the main actors, let them go and do other work now that they have an established base. Instead, now they're never going to get
look
another
at Game
job.
of Thrones.
Yeah,
Like, the characters we're all following now, other than, like, Tyrion and Khaleesi and Jon Snow, most of the characters we started with in that first season are gone.
Exactly.
Even people who were introduced in the second or third seasons,
Yeah.
they're gone now,
So the worry is it feels like Saga is just going to follow. Though I wouldn't put it past him to eventually kill off the parents, and then we just follow the kid, because the main narration in the story is in the form of a diary written by the child, and the book starts with her being born.
Well, the framing device is actually her narrating all this
Right.
as an older adult.
Right. Exactly. Well,
Kind of.
like I said, in a I
So-
didn't mean to suggest it's a diary as she's a child.
Yeah, as she's
Right.
an infant, right?
Yeah,
in her
she's
diary.
right. They're
Hiding
very
from
smart
the
on that.
Nazis in a secret room.
Very smart on that one.
Yeah.
Very smart.
But no, I was gonna say there is a logical endpoint to Saga, which is where the narration catches up to the present.
But that's going to mean the death of the two parents and the child growing old, I guess, right? Or I suppose they don't have to be dead.
Yeah,
But-
just her as an adult. Like,
Yeah.
this is where we are now.
Or I
don't
guess
know what-
even a teenager, because I don't know that they even drop hints of how old she is when she is
No.
doing this narration.
No, they don't really. So,
So, and they could always just do a flash forward too. And that was the end of that. What a saga! I would love that.
Last panel is her just like sitting in a cafe eating a baguette, just like writing in a book.
Yeah.
You know?
Probably, yeah. It's better than the ending of what Wanted, where it's just him screaming "F you" and giving the finger to the reader.
That was a little,
Little much.
yeah.
But good for things to have an ending. Next on my list is Paper Girls. The thing I can liken this most to, in some fashion, is Stranger Things.
Yeah.
It takes place in the 80s. It's a group of girls, some of who are paper girls. They deliver papers. A new girl joins them, and they get sent on this crazy time travel thing. But they're from the 80s, so they don't know any technology, really. So that means they're not looking for cell phones to help out, and they run into one of their future selves, and there's something with aliens, and it's a very wacky story, again, very much like Saga. It jumps around. But that's been winning a lot of awards as well, partially because of the artist, which is Cliff Chang, who is also the artist on, it's not in my outline, I'm trying to pull this up. No, I don't. What else did he draw? I want to look now. Because there was something else that he did that I absolutely loved. That was really good, and I don't know why I can't.
I am enjoying Paper Girls as well.
Mhm.
As you mentioned, it's a very bizarre, kind of sci-fi, time travel narrative that would seem like it would spin out of control, but because you have these Paper Girls as your main characters, it sort of gives it that grounding of that group dynamic, and these characters who don't understand what's happening and can't tell the bad guys from the good guys. And so they sort of become a reader's surrogate. That, yeah, this is really weird. I can't always follow what's going on, but neither can the characters I'm supposed to identify with.
Right.
That's the one thing I'll say about Paper Girls. I enjoy that series as well, but yeah, I'm on the record on this podcast as saying Saga is my current favorite thing in comics.
Right. And Cliff Chang did the Brian Azzarello run of Wonder Woman, that initial run of the New 52, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
I believe the Greg Rucka one they were just doing that kind of revamped the origins. Well, gorgeous. The artwork was fantastic in that series. I would say go back and read the Brian Azzarello Cliff Chang one. As much as, people joke, by people I mean the wife, jokes about like, oh, you mentioned Greg Rucka, drink, because I'm a fan. I would say the Brian Azzarello run, and Cliff Chang was the artist on that.
Okay.
But yes, Paper Girls is fun, and like in the back of every issue, there's like letters about being a quality paper boy. Like people are writing in letters, asking questions, and getting answers. It's a fun thing, and that's the other thing that he does in his books. He invites people to do like weird surveys, to send in cosplay. He does cosplay contests,
Yep.
and then he sends he puts together a gift packages for the top 3 people and sends them out, and it's original artwork and stuff like
Really
that.
good at doing fan interaction.
Yes, and I think that's cool too, because
Yep.
fans love to be involved in what they're doing, what they're engaging in.
This goes back to Stan Lee. He was great at that, great at sort of marketing himself and his brand
Yes.
and interacting with the fans, and that's
Yep.
just being continued.
You stop laughing, Liam. He's got this whole thing where he just hates Stan Lee. Did you see the Defenders trailer where it's just Stan Lee like driving around New York talking about the importance of heroes? Brought a tear to my eye. Of course you didn't, because you hate fun.
I just don't like the fact that he gets like hero worshipped, whereas other people who did as much or more work.
You're talking about Jack Kirby at the D23 thing, the big Disney thing. They gave their Lifetime Achievement Awards. Before Stan Lee got one, they gave one to Jack Kirby, and Stan Lee just about broke down and cried when he got up there because people were giving Kirby credit. Now you're going to say it's his fault they didn't get credit, but I'm sorry, the writer is usually the person who gets more credit over the artist, unless the art far overshadows the writing on a comic. It'd be better if it was more even, depending on what kind of reader you are. I look at the words, and I take in the visuals as part of the story, but it's like cinematographers versus like a writer-director on a movie. You know what I mean? Yeah, you don't care. You're just staring me down. You showed up late. We're done with you. Have either of you guys read The Private Eye?
I have.
Now, what did you think of that? Now, the whole idea of this one is it's post internet.
Well, it's in the future.
Right.
I would compare it to Transmetropolitan. That was a Hunter S. Thompson surrogate in the
Right.
future. This is a generic detective, Private Eye, in the future,
Mhm.
dealing with this sort of, like you said, it's kind of post-internet. The internet has been eliminated, but there still are all these fantastic technologies and body altercations you can
Yes.
get.
The main conceit is everything on the internet was revealed. Every piece of information, every secret password, it was taking the idea of these data breaches we have now, these people hacking into private data, and everybody's gets shared with everybody else in the world. So now, people, when they're out in public, will wear like masks and stuff to hide who they are, because you can still go and find all their information. And I love, so there's the character that's kind of doing the detective work and trying to figure out how, and is it the character's grandfather who is supposed to be us, where he has a couple of tattoos and just
Yeah.
loves playing video games all day and not really caring about anything else? Fantastic character,
Yeah.
the grumpy grandpa. I don't remember a ton of this, I just remember really liking it. And I think you can get it pretty cheap digitally
Yeah.
right now, because it's like a 3-part story, or it's not super long.
No, I bought the hardcover, and that is expensive. The hardcover is like $50.
How thick is it? Is it?
But yeah, it's
Okay.
it's an inch or 2, inch and a half.
So it might be
maybe.
an afternoon read kind
Yeah,
of thing, but it's not a
afternoon read.
half hour and you're done with it.
No. But I liked it. I'm a big fan of those kind of classic Raymond Chandler noir stories, the
Mhm.
Sam Spades and the Philip Marlowe's, and it's just like one of those. It's like Trouble is My Business, but in graphic novel form.
Right. And the last one I have on here, I have not read. It's called We Stand on Guard.
I have not read that. I saw that as well, and I'm like, hey, I haven't read that one.
It is a book in the future. There's giant robots and stuff. It is Canada defending itself against the United States in a war. and I think there's giant robots in it.
That
Prophetic. That is all I know about this book. So, and as we talked, he's not from Canada. He's not Canadian, I don't think. I don't think he lives in Canada. He's from Cleveland. But just decided what would happen in a war between the U.S. and Canada, and somebody has giant robots. So I believe that's the cover of the comic. I hope I'm not mistaken.
I hope it's Canada.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It sounds like a very Canadian
feel like they-
innovation.
Exactly. I mean, they've got to deal with the bears and the moose and everything.
Yeah.
Like they need giant robots, even if it's just for snow removal.
We built a wall between us and our southern neighbor. They built giant robots.
Exactly. Maybe
Yeah,
it's a
they go
giant
Pacific
ice
Rim
wall.
wall. Yeah,
Maybe it's like the Game of Thrones where they have the
The
giant
wall.
ice wall.
that'd be cool.
King of the North. King of the North.
I'm gonna
I
start
said
calling
that'd be
Canadians.
cool. Does nobody respect my puns?
No, just
Oh.
rolling right along.
That's super chill, Liam.
I know.
If we ever
It's-
do
it's
go
very
to war,
cold of me,
What
I
an
know.
what an ice idea.
I didn't mean to ice you out there.
Yeah.
No
We-
cold shoulder intended.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. Okay,
if we ever do go to war with Canada, we have to call them the White Walkers.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I see no reason that's not going to happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the leader has to be like, the Night's King.
Riding a moose.
Yeah.
Gotta be right, but an ice moose. Just like there's ice dragons, I'll
Yeah.
bet you there's ice moose. We just don't know about it yet because we're American. We're not allowed to.
You know what? I bet Canada has a plural for moose. They
Yeah.
just don't tell.
No. Moose. Brian K Vaughan, he also has done things for television, and a lot of his things are being adapted for television or film. So he wrote a couple episodes of Lost. He has I just have film or TV show because it keeps going back and forth. There is something coming for Ex Machina on live action. Why the Last Man as well. That keeps jumping between TV and film, so who knows if and when. Until I see a trailer, I'm not going to believe anything. Runaways we know is coming to Hulu, and then there's something called Round Table, and I don't know if that's a comic he worked on or an original thing that he's doing.
Or King Arthur thing.
It could be a King Arthur thing. It's entirely possible. We don't know. Yeah, you might actually have something that you'd be forced to look at finally because it's a Brian K Vaughan thing. So I'm just gonna roll down the list of awards that this guy has won, and again, I believe the Eisners have been announced for 2017 because that's going on at San Diego Comic-Con this weekend. But as we're not covering San Diego Comic-Con, I have his nominations here for this year. 2005, Best New Series, Ex Machina. Best Writer, Why the Last Man, Runaways, and Ex Machina. Because at what they call you Best Writer, you can have multiple books. It's not just one project. Wired Magazine gave him the Rave Award for 2007. 2008, Best for Eisner's again. Best Continuing Series for Why the Last Man. Best New Series for Buffy Season 8. 2013, Best Writer, Best New Series, and Best Continuing Series for Saga. Then he won a Hugo Award in 2013 for Best Graphic Story for Saga. 2014, back to the Eisners. 2014, Best Writer for Saga, Best Continuing Series for Saga. 2015, Best Continuing Series for Saga, and Best Digital Comic / Webcomic for The Private Eye. 2016, Best New Series for Paper Girls, if we're seeing a pattern of every time he does a thing. And then for 2017, he's nominated for Best Continuing Series for Saga and Paper Girls, and Best Writer for Saga and Paper Girls. So when we talk...
And Stan Lee's going to have his knees broken.
Sure, because he's apparently the Thomas Edison of comic books.
He's the kingpin.
Okay.
Wow.
He made that
It's-
character. You know this.
Oh, God. Yes, because every character is a pale reflection of the real Stan Lee. That's just his mob boss side.
Yep.
Okay, whatever. So, the point I wanted to make with all of these awards is we're not the only ones that like Brian K. Vaughan. Clearly, he's a very well-recognized writer and continually is winning awards as best writer. Usually up there with, like, Jason Aaron. It has been winning a lot of stuff for, like, for the current Thor run. And, I know there's a couple other writers out there that, you know,
Regs.
yeah, that are winning these awards year after year. But these are very much fan favorites. If you were to introduce somebody, so I suppose here's how we'll wrap up then. If you were to introduce somebody to Brian K. Vaughan, what is the best way to do that? To introduce them to the writing? Because I think my first introduction must have been the Green Lantern one, though I didn't realize it was him. And then I think it was Luke that suggested Why the Last Man to me. And then you got me to read Runaways. But what would be, be like, somebody's listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
Wow, he sounds cool. What is the thing? Where do I start?
If they're a fan of comics, if they're used to reading the format and enjoy the medium, Why the Last Man is his classic. If they're not into comics, it's a little bit more difficult because you don't know how they're going to react to the medium.
Right.
But he did write a book that you can finish in a day or two, maybe a long afternoon, called Pride of Baghdad.
Oh, didn't know about this.
It's about a family of lions who live in Baghdad in Saddam Hussein's private zoo.
Okay.
Obviously, we invade and bomb Baghdad, and they're free to just roam the streets. But of course, coming up with food and encountering other animals presents a problem for these lions, and just being lions in an environment that isn't hospitable to lions presents problems. Anyway, that's a great book. That's just one small volume that if you're not into comics, you can pick that up again and read it in a long afternoon. See what you think. It's got very good art, and it's Brian K Vaughan doing the writing.
Do the lions talk to one another?
Yeah.
Okay. So they do think they're conscious.
They do
beings.
communicate. Yeah.
Okay. So I was gonna say otherwise it'd be like.
Yeah.
Why are you looking at this?
Yeah.
Why are you looking
Hey,
at that?
to be fair, that's okay. Or you do it like the pizza dog stories in Hawkeye.
Oh, and
Those
it's
were
got
fantastic.
a scene where lions fight a bear.
There you say, hey, I'm sold. Also,
Should've
in
led
bed
with that.
Yeah. I would.
That should have been the title. Lions fight a
Oh yeah,
bear.
it's a great book, Lions Fight a Bear. So check that out.
So I would agree. As far as I think, Why the Last Man would be a good place. A lot of people suggest if you're an adult, because again, Why the Last Man, I would say older teen. Just if there's parents listening or something. I think I would be fine reading this as a teenager, but it depends if you're the kind of person that's okay with, oh, look, there's nudity and they're talking about sex. Like, cool, grow up,
I'm very European.
Yes. Otherwise, I've seen on a lot of lists of the first comics you should read, or I gave somebody this comic to get into comics. Saga is on a lot of them just because of its serialized, big storytelling, and it's very fantastical.
Yeah.
So it works. Otherwise, Runaways. A lot of people say if you want to get into comic books, give them Runaways because there's some superhero-y things in it, but it's not a superhero story. It's about people, kids trying to do it. Now, you've also, Liam, actually read the first volume of Runaways.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that? Would that be a book you would feel comfortable giving to somebody who's not really a comic reader?
Yeah, I say that that's a good starting place for somebody if they just want something that puts you into that sort of a universe without expecting you to already know everything.
Sure.
It's definitely a good, you learn everything as they learn it sort of situation.
Yeah.
I will say that, assuming there are geeks listening, or geeks who want to recommend to other geeks, if you are or know a Star Wars fan, Saga would be a great book to read.
Okay.
If you are or know a Buffy fan, Runaways would be a great book to read. It's very much a group of kids, a Scooby gang, if you will,
Right.
Coming to terms with things. Another thing I'll mention about Runaways is it does exist in the Marvel universe.
Yes, it does.
There are cameos by Marvel superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
The cool thing about Runaways is most Marvel heroes are New York-based. Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Captain America, they're all from and operate mostly in New York. Daredevil, Luke Cage.
Fantastic Four.
This is the conceit behind Runaways is it's in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason that all their parents have formed this powerful cabal of supervillains is because there are no heroes in Los Angeles, apparently, in the Marvel universe. So it's really easy to pull up, being the shadowy...
Well, it's hard to swing from building to building when they're all so darn spaced out and short.
Yeah, exactly. You have to do a lot of legwork. And we all know Spider-Man hates walking.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody, Tony Stark should definitely be a West Coast guy. I mean, he's very laid back.
Well, it really depends on when you read comics. There's a lot of New York-based comic characters that have also been LA-based at one time or another. The Punisher, Moon Knight, the West Coast Avengers, just in general, when a bunch of heroes went out there.
Hawkeye, when he's just bumming around selling weed.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, there
Not a
is.
good time for Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Those were his introspective years. He did a lot of reflecting.
There's actually one of the trades, one of the volumes, if you will, of the Matt Frackman Hawkeye run. It's called L.A. Woman, and it's about Kate Bishop, the female Hawkeye, living in L.A. for a while before she returns to New York.
Yeah, again,
After
just
the big
unwinding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before going back to New York.
Yes, because New York is the center of the Marvel Universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'd love to hear about some heroes that hang out in like Cleveland, Ohio. You know?
That would be the Great Lakes Avengers that hang out in Milwaukee. And then they did it where the Scarlet Spider for a while was Texas, right?
Oh.
Was Dallas, I think. Every once in a while they'll do that. What DC did is they just made up new random cities for people to be in. But the Flash was like kind of southwest. Is that
Central
what
City?
Central and Keystone were supposed to be? Yeah.
Scott Lang, Ant-Man, is currently operating out of Miami.
There you go.
Hot Miami. Nice.
Yeah.
Not a bad place for an
Cue the Will Smith.
I'd like there to be like a corn mutant called the Corn Husker who lives, you know, like hangs
Corn
out
Husker.
in like Nebraska.
Take out your phone and search. I bet you will find a corn-based hero or villain. We've been around long enough. I think
And he
that's
does battle along the state border with Iowa-based, you know, like wheat villain or something like that.
Yeah. Well, Iowa would be corn too. Iowa's mostly it's corn and windmills. So 'cause they have the wind farms.
Kansas, not Iowa, Kansas.
Yeah.
The human windmill has to team up with Ryeman to defeat the Cornhusker.
Boom, there it is.
Pitch script.
Yep, we've
done.
already gotten it done. Let's get some words onto paper, get some copyrights involved.
Minnesota hero is called Seabass.
Well,
But
Paul
his-
Bunyan, he would be our Thor.
I suppose. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. His vast-based powers
Yeah,
of
he's a giant axe who just cuts everybody in half.
He's
He's very
gasping
violent.
for breath.
Plus
Okay.
he's got the blue ox. That's a cute sidekick. Sell a lot of toys.
That's
Yep.
true. That's true. Money, money. Are you listening, Marvel?
He just
Pay
eats
us.
the Corn Husker. He's just going.
Copyright 2017, Dr. Ray. You just copyrighted Paul Bunyan.
Yeah, I know.
By saying it on a podcast. That's how it works.
The intellectual property is kind of like in the
Yeah.
public domain, I would assume.
Well, I mean, they did that with John Steele, or
Yeah.
John Henry Irons. You know.
That's true. With Steel. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, let's.
Paul Bunyan's better than John Henry Irons. Let's just get that out on the table right now.
Paul
Okay?
Bunyan could beat up Steel.
Every day of the week.
We're doing super fights now. All right, let's wrap it up. That is it for this week. Thank you so much, Ray, for being here. Liam,
I'm glad I was able to.
there
be
you
here.
go. Yeah,
I made the day.
look at you. That's what I'll say. As we mentioned before, star ratings and reviews for the show is great. We are part of the Geek to Geek Podcast Network. Go ahead, check out Geektitude and the Geek to Geek Podcast are the two other ones that you will see every single week right now. Joe is on vacation for the next 4 weeks and still managed to do 4 episodes in the can. I think he got all of them done. So you will not miss a week of shows. They're all just recorded way ahead of time. I keep teasing there might be other shows in the future. That is still coming up. Details when those become available. For both Ray and Liam, you guys are on Facebook. I will put links there. I don't think either of you guys are on Twitter or anything yet.
Not currently.
Okay. Liam is on Reddit as Irish Mutt.
Irish
_ Mutt. Are you a Redditor at all, Ray? I feel like I've asked you this before.
Yeah, not currently.
Okay. Otherwise, you're always welcome to get a hold of them through us and our official Twitter page for the show, which is @ComicBoxCast. You can email us at thecomicboxpodcast@gmail.com, or you can find us on Facebook. Just search Geek to Geek Cast, and we just have one big Facebook page for the whole network. Otherwise, as I mentioned, Reddit, we have a subreddit, so this episode will be posted on our subreddit, which is reddit.com/r/Geek2Geekcast, where we can have longer, more in-depth conversations about Brian K Vaughan. I also have a thread up there just for Game of Thrones spoilers. It is Sunday. I am hoping I'm going to get to go and watch Game of Thrones tonight and hop on that subreddit, and we can talk more about that. Yeah.
The North remembers.
Yes, it does. Yeah. It has a long memory. And trees with faces in them. And they remember even more. think Bran's gonna do anything. I kind of hope they build him up to be this Jesus character, and then they just kill him as soon as he hits the door.
I just had the idea, what happens if Jon Snow dies and becomes a White Walker?
Well, or he become like half a White Walker.
Because they
like
can't hurt him.
Yeah.
Like, if he's a Targaryen, like they're
Oh.
hinting at, like,
Yeah.
you know,
Huh.
he could be the new Night King and take over the entire world and lead a
Or
legion of White Walkers.
or
to,
he
like, free you
becomes
guys.
sort of a. This is spoilers here for Game of Thrones. So bye if you don't want these. Everybody else stick around. Extra bonus content. You could be like Uncle Benjen, who is sort of a half White Walker, but he says they still hunt him. But maybe if it was Jon Snow, whose name is Snow, so it would kind of tie in and be sort of poetic, he becomes the new Night's King, but then he is in charge of the army of the undead, or has that flicker of humanity still in him, you know, from the Targaryen side of him or whatever, where he's still able to command the army of the dead, and so he guards the north from the extra undead army that's on the other side of the north.
Yeah, they always focus on
The polar bears
north.
and
What
Al
if
Gore.
at the South
Man,
Pole,
bear, pig.
There's an even worse, like, sand-based thing.
Santa Claus. Yeah.
I would love if Santa showed
Yeah,
up.
what if Krampus is there?
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Maybe the White Walkers are really just the elves, and they all just quit because of the harsh conditions.
Yep.
And the Night's King was just the head elf.
Yeah.
Or
He's the union leader.
yeah.
Yeah, he's the Jimmy Hoffa of the North.
I don't think anyone in Westeros is nice enough to get Christmas presents, so they just are bored and have nothing to do.
Yeah.
All that coal.
The best
Yeah.
they can hope for is a bowl of brown from what is it? Whatever alley, the street in Westeros, in King's Landing.
Mhm.
What's the Flea Bottom? You guys are no help to me at all. You're just like nodding, like yes, I know what
We
you're
like
talking
watching them
about.
struggle.
No, I don't. I watched the first couple seasons of Game of Thrones
Yeah.
on DVD. Loved it. But I figured I ought to read the book, the Song of Fire and Ice book,
Yeah.
before I continue with the series anymore. So I haven't
Yeah,
kept up
like,
with it.
there's-
Although,
yeah.
here's another thing I will add, a little caveat. A lot like when I'll get stuck just like looking up random articles on Wikipedia,
Yeah.
the Star Wars Wikipedia page. I've started doing
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia. I've started doing that with Game of Thrones. Again, a franchise
That's
I
how
have
I got it.
very little familiarity with, and I'll just like get absorbed into this
Yep.
like universe I have
Yes.
very little familiarity
Yep.
with.
It's
Just like,
so
who's
well
this
laid out
character?
and developed and
So
everything.
much world building goes into that.
I learned so many spoilers by doing that, and I was just like, oh, you know, like the Red Wedding. You know,
Yeah.
like I knew that was all
But
going
the
to
books,
happen.
the show is past the books, and the show is not doing the full Walking Dead and completely rewriting what happens to everybody, but it's definitely going its own direction.
Okay, its own
So,
thing. I should-
Yeah. Yeah.
There are a number of characters in the books that don't exist even in the show at all. You know, and you know when it's like there are 50 different factions in the books. There's like 5 different factions in the show.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. The book is also. When I read the books, I was reading it as an ebook on my phone. On my computer, because I would read during my lunch break at work. I would have to put the map of the world up on my screen, so I knew
You kinda
what
have
the
to.
heck they were talking
Even
about.
more so than with Tolkien. You
Yeah.
have to be able to be like, okay, I can see how the
Exactly.
geography of
You
that
got from
works.
here to here in this long, but I thought it was, you know what? Let me just look
Yeah.
at the map.
You got that.
Like, how were you in that same area and didn't encounter this other character? Oh,
Right.
wait, that area
It's
is really
separate,
huge.
and yeah,
It's
exactly.
just like the idea of Rob, like with the pins in the map and the
That's it. The
strings
string.
of yarn.
My face starts. I
connecting
become the
dots.
question. And, yeah. Okay. All right. That's it. We'll see you guys next week. Go watch those trailers. We will be talking. Yeah. No. Lay it down. Not based on Game of Thrones, because we're talking comics instead. But anyway, yeah, go watch those trailers, guys. We're talking Comic-Con next week. Bye!
Bye-bye.
See ya.
And that's it.